and what their view is for the future.
The Honourable Attorney General and Minister of Climate Change, Excellency, Ministers, Permanent Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, beloved neighbour to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, plastic production has surged over the last 50 years from 15 million tons in 1964 to about 311 million tons in the latest sets of 2014. It is expected to double again over the next 20 years. Fiji, like all the other small island developing states, island nations in the Pacific, the Caribbean, and the small states, African region as well, are now increasingly recognizing that plastic waste is the single most pressing issue that needs immediate action. It is recognized as a major concern with potential to cause negative impacts on our national development, the various sectors of the economy, including agriculture, health, environment, food security, tourism as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the accumulation of plastic products in the environment can adversely affect our wildlife, the natural ecosystems, and humans. Plastics are inexpensive and durable, and this is one of the key characteristics which is contributing towards easy and increased utilization of this particular product amongst the rank and file, in particular the households, and as well as the business sector as well. Ladies and gentlemen, for the Ministry of Waterways and Environment, our major concern is the impact of plastic and plastic products in our waterways. Over the last 5 months, particularly early part of this year, there was increasing attention to the effect of flooding in our communities. Now, flooding occurs when our waterways are not able to hold the volume of water, and therefore it spills over and causes damage to agriculture, the fixed infrastructure, and other aspects of our livelihood, the residential and household sector. Now, what contributes to flooding? There are a number of factors. One is the excess amount of excess volume of water that enters into a waterway, which before we didn't have that volume of water passing through our waterways. And this excess volume of water is due to basically climate change. The second reason why water spills over the waterways is because our waterways now do not have that amount of capacity as it used to have before because of siltation. The third causes of flooding is because our waterways are getting clogged from debris that comes from upstream, from the catchment, because of activities that is happening in the catchments now, the watershed, which we did not have those kinds of activities before. Some 30, 40 years ago, that kind of agriculture activity did not happen upstream in the catchment, and therefore those residual material from the agriculture activity are finding its place in the waterways, comes down and reduces the discharge capacity of the waterways. Secondly, the kinds of logging activities, the kinds of commercial activity that is happening now, 30, 40 years ago, that volume of commercial activity did not happen. Now with logging activities, you will see that the offcuts are basically willy-nilly thrown in the waterways, finds its way downstream and clogs up our waterways. The other contributing factor that clogs up our waterways is household and industrial waste. And amongst these, we have noted over my short period in the Ministry of Waterways is the increasing volume of plastic waste material that's clogging up our waterways. Now, amongst all the kinds of waste material, the distinctive feature of plastic material in our waterways is that it does not degenerate. It remains there. And this is causing a lot of problem in our waterways in terms of ensuring that water freely flows out of our waterways into the ocean. Now, the other problem with the plastic material that is being utilized is the biodegradable material inside the plastic bag is not able to degrade because of the plastic bag. Because for the material to degrade, you need the microorganisms which uses oxygen to undertake its activity and degrade those materials. So even though the plastic bag may have biodegradable material in it, the waste material, but it cannot degrade because it's tied up in the plastic bag. So you will find this material remaining there. The second important aspect, negative externality of plastic bags is that it affects the nutrient cycle, because if you don't have that material in the plastic bag, that material will degrade, and that particular the nutrients released from that material from the degradation process will come back and contribute towards building the nutrient profile of our soil. And with our country where agriculture is playing and will be playing an increasing role in contributing to the growth and development of the economy, this will become a major, increasingly critical issue over time, when you'll find a lot of our materials will be locked up in plastic bags, which are not able to break down and release nutrients to the environment, to the soil. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is becoming a major issue with increased utilization of garbage bags. Is something that we need to turn our focus to. At the moment, a lot of discourse is focusing on only the utilization of plastic bags out of supermarkets in particular. I think we need to turn our attention also towards not only garbage bags, but also all other kinds of materials that is utilizing plastic as the main ingredient, or plastic is part of the packaging. If some of you do get time to go around and pass through waterways, you will note that you'll find a lot of places people find it very convenient to dump a lot of their household waste, including a lot of diapers that you'll find in our waterways. And these things are becoming an eyesore now. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are very concerned about how do we protect our waterways. It is becoming a threat to environment and the tourism sector as well. Fiji, a country, and also some of the other small and developing countries in the Caribbean region as well, where tourism sector plays a very important role. We cannot continue to see that the status quo maintained, and therefore our tourism sector gets become this issue of disposal of waste with plastic becomes a major threat to our tourism sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Minister Pakhonmi will probably highlight in his response about some of the measures that we are using to deal with this issue of how we minimize the utilization of plastic materials as we conduct our business. And I kind of summarize this in three categories, and I think some of my colleagues will be talking about this: education, disincentive, and prosecution. With regard to education, my colleague will, I think, Permanent Secretary in Education will probably talk in detail about how we need to create ambassadors amongst our different sections of the society. I think we need to see a major national movement in terms of changing of behavior. And I think the most important category which PS Education will deal with is dealing with the future generations, which is now held with us in our school system. But we, the Ministry of Environment and Waterways, are looking forward to including this issue, discourse about discourse against the use of plastic material, plastic bags and plastic products in all our activities, whether it's a World Water Day, whether it's Environment Day, whether it's a day to recognize the importance of nature and plants. All our programs, and I suggest that we need to see similar kind of activities throughout by all players, all institutions, formal or informal or religious or cultural institutions, about how we need to change our behavior in terms of utilization of plastic products or plastic material. It cannot be only top driven. It cannot we at the government level, we alone cannot just push this down. It has to all of us have to join hands, and I think corporate sector has to play a very equal and important role in this process. You would have also noted some of the measures led by Honourable Minister of the Economy with regard to creating disincentive for usage of plastic material. For example, as Honourable Minister mentioned about raising the price of plastic bags out of the supermarkets, and Honourable Minister probably I think it mentioned in his budgetary address about completely banning these plastic bags probably come next year in the next financial year or so. But again, as I said, that we need to look at all the other plastic materials and how and gradually phase it in our production system without affecting the growth and development of the country. The idea is not to stifle growth and development. The idea is to ensure that we minimize any negative externalities out of these particular products that is causing long-term irreversible damage to our environment. Ladies and gentlemen, with respect to prosecution, you would have noted those who have followed through carefully budget discourse and debate. Honourable Minister of Economy tabled an amendment to the Drainage Act, where anyone who interferes with our waterways or obstructs or interferes with the free flow of any water in the waterways will now be fined not exceeding 25,000 or imprisoned for a term not exceeding 10 years, or both in case of a natural person, or not exceeding 100,000 for body corporate. Similarly, in 2008, government implemented the Litter Promulgation Decree and the Litter Amendment Decree 2010, which provided for a $40 on-the-spot fines and other penalties for littering ranging from $500 to $10,000, or a prison term of 3 months to 12 months. So, ladies and gentlemen, but before we get to this stage and prosecute habitual offenders, we need to have a sea change in behavior and conduct. I think that is through education, and that has to be led by all institutions, formal and informal institutions in the country, which means that we need to get together, join hands, and deal with this issue, because this is no smaller problem for small islands like Fiji. Thank you.
The right legislative frameworks, policies, education.
Page, you will also see the commentary of around arts and what they do up and down.
Of the green economy in Fiji. We also